Thanks for joining, everybody. I'm David Terry, Executive Director of NASEO, and appreciate everybody joining this morning. We have a great lineup and over the next several days, everything from the outlook from the Biden-Harris administration, which we'll hear from in a few moments, a number of other exciting speakers today that sort of set the tone for the rest of the week. But I did want to stop for a moment and thank all of our sponsors for this week's events. Our featured sponsors, the American Gas Association, Edison Electric Institute, the Propane Education and Research Council. Also other sponsors, ICF, the Center for Sustainable Energy, CTC Global, GDS Associates, and the Wisconsin Office of Energy Innovation. We also have a number of other promotional partners that we appreciate their time and support in getting the news of the meeting out to everybody, the Environmental and Energy Study Institute, ESPR Regulatory Technologies, the Green Hydrogen Coalition, the National Association of Energy Services Companies, and the National League of Cities. All great partners and colleagues, and we appreciate their time and input. I think in the interest of time, I'm going to keep my remarks short. You'll hear more from myself and the NASEO staff, but in particular the board throughout the conference. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to our chair, Kelly Smith-Burke, the director of the Florida Energy Office and chair of NASEO's Board of Directors. Kelly?
Thank you, David. And I want to thank the State, Territory, and District of Columbia Energy offices and our affiliate members for taking the time to join us today. Our Outlook Conference, as you know, always aims to provide you with a view of what's around the corner in terms of federal actions, as well as innovations from the states and the private sector. December saw the passage of the Energy Act of 2020, FY 2021 appropriations, and tax extenders. And now we're turning our attention to the proposals from the new Congress and Biden administration, which you'll hear more about throughout our conference. Today, you will hear from Gina McCarthy, the first White House National Climate Advisor. Some of you may recall her speaking to us at past NASEO events when she was Administrator of EPA under President Obama. A climate advisor, McCarthy's long history of working at the state level in Massachusetts and Connecticut make her particularly well suited to understand the perspectives that NASEO brings to advancing clean energy, energy efficiency, renewable energy, and resiliency to address climate change and create good jobs. We are very happy to have her here with us this morning. Later today, you will hear from U.S. Senator Angus King of Maine. He's a former business person and former governor. He also holds a key vote for any energy infrastructure stimulus bill, so you will want to tune in to hear what he has to say later today. You may also have seen his compelling CBS 60 Minutes interview a few weeks ago, which elevated his practical views on bipartisanship. Tomorrow, longtime NASEO friend and newly named chair of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, Richard Glick, will join us. Few areas of state and federal energy interaction will be more impactful than those that Chair Glick will address this year. And then on Friday, we're going to shift our focus to the kinds of programs that are required to achieve our shared state and federal goals, such as the administration's 4 Million Buildings Energy Efficiency Challenge. Also on Friday, we'll release the preliminary results of the NASEO State Energy Office survey, which provides important data on state priorities, and we'd like to thank all of you who participated in that survey. And last but certainly not least, as Cassie said, we will hold the prize drawings for the best and most interesting home office. So please make sure you get your submissions in. We hope that over the next few days, you will join us for as many sessions as possible. I want to extend a huge thank you to all of the sponsors, NASEO affiliate members, state and NASEO staff that have brought us together for the 2021 Outlook Conference. And now I'm going to turn it over to my friend and colleague from Massachusetts to moderate our first session. Patrick Woodcock is the commissioner of the Massachusetts Department of Energy Resources and one of 2 NASEO Northeast Region board members. Patrick?
Thank you so much, Kelly. So excited to be
Oops, Patrick, we lost your audio.
Uh-oh.
Patrick?
deep pride with the White House briefing that Boston and Massachusetts was so well represented. Administrator McCarthy, you mentioned that it was a big day for Boston, but that happens just about every day.
Yeah.
We're so proud to have your leadership at this critical time and have a perspective that not only has national expertise, but really was instilled at the state level at the beginning of your career. On a personal level, I'll also say that your dedication to public service is second to none, and really appreciate you stepping up at a time when our country needs leaders and expertise like yours. And furthermore, that I personally have seen how your public dedication is expressed not only at the national level, but with your family, as your daughter is one of the senior team leaders of the Mass DOER, and couldn't be more pleased that we have a leader at the national level and a leader at the state level. We will have some time for some Q&A, but I did want to quickly turn over to Administrator McCarthy.
Well, Patrick, first of all, thank you for the introduction. I remember I got an email after the news conference when we were outlining our climate executive order when I was with Secretary Kerry and Jen Psaki. I got this call saying you're trending because of what you said about Boston. I'm like, okay, first of all, what's trending? And secondly, what did I say? You know, to me, every day is a great day for the city of Boston, and it is incredible. And Patrick, I have to tell you that my daughter who works for you I'm extraordinarily proud of her. I've always been. She's incredibly smart and dedicated to issues that you and I have cared about for a long time. But she's also a hard marker and she thinks you're great. So thank you so much for all of your leadership. You know, I'm just really proud to be from Massachusetts and to know that this administration is going to have a lot of really great people, you know, in positions to be able to really make a difference. And David, thank you for inviting me today. I know that I've tried really hard over the past 4 years with the lack of leadership at the federal level to really focus a lot on the great things that are happening at the state and city level. And I have to tell you that NASEO has been a wonderful champion throughout that whole time. And I just want to thank all of you for holding the fort and for moving things forward, because there's been remarkable progress made throughout the states with support from philanthropies and others. And so we're not starting from a place of weakness. We're starting from, I think, a solid place for us to take off and run. And this administration is all about doing that. And I know that many people have reached out to me and basically said, Gina, congratulations. And I know behind that and sympathies, because there's high expectations about what we're going to get done. But I'm telling you, I think we can deliver on those expectations, and that's the plan. You know, one of the wonderful things coming here is that, you know, I really took on this position, not just because it's just a wonderful honor to be able to do that, but because, you know, President Biden laid out this incredible plan that really understood fundamentally that energy is a pivot point for people. It is about keeping people safe. It is about our security as communities, as families, as individuals, but also internationally. It's about our national security. And so when we think about the ways in which, you know, President Biden's plan is basically articulating his understanding of the relationship between, you know, COVID-19, which is a crisis that this administration has already started running on to help resolve because it needed federal leadership, but also the economic crisis that resulted from that, and the ways in which we can think about the challenge of racism and equity much more fundamentally in the work we're doing, and how clean energy is actually going to be a driver of significant job growth. It's going to deliver a more stable economic base for us to work from. And that we've seen states and cities out in front showing us the way forward. And I'm incredibly proud, Patrick, of the work going on in Massachusetts, but we know that it's married with work that's going on in so many states right now, and that NASEO is a big player in bringing those states together and sharing what we all do well and how we can work together. So today has to be turning a corner from going backwards to the opportunities that we have ahead. And so President Biden continues to say that every time someone says climate change to him, he thinks jobs. And we're going to deliver those jobs because we have no choice but to take advantage of clean energy, because it was where jobs were growing faster than in every other sector. And it's going to remain the place where we need to look to, if we actually want to build healthy, safe, stable communities, and we want to bring jobs that are being offered elsewhere back to the United States, which is what Buy America is all about. So it's my job to lead a healthy team, and I think you've already seen us moving forward with a couple of things. On day one, you saw President Biden put his stamp on climate change. You know, he basically said we are going to relook at all of the degradation of some of our monuments, and we're going to relook at our natural resources and protect those. We are going to reject, you know, projects that aren't consistent and don't give us an opportunity to actually think about how we build our clean energy economy moving forward, like the Keystone Pipeline, which the permit was not accepted and in fact rejected. And we are going to look at all those rollbacks and start thinking again about how we crafted a clean energy future that has performed even over the last 4 years in startlingly great ways. And we need to jumpstart moving forward. And part of those efforts to jumpstart, you saw in the climate executive order that we unveiled last week. And that order is really about recognizing the value of clean energy, the opportunity we have to deliver great job opportunities, but also the opportunity that we all have and need to nurture, which is to focus on the communities that have been left behind, that have not been invested in, that are hurting more than any other by traditional pollution, and that are in the crosshairs of climate change. We don't just need to mitigate greenhouse gases. We need to build resilient communities again and use all of that as the basis for a strong and growing economy. And that means bringing back manufacturing. What are we going to manufacture? The clean energy that we actually need, and all of the technologies related to that. We need to bring back and rebuild our manufacturing base so that climate change efforts and clean energy are not seen as coastal issues, but are seen across the board in all 50 states. And we need to nurture the development of those jobs, and we need to recognize that when there's job transitions, that we are out in front of those, and we are actually producing good paying union jobs and making sure that the energy dependent communities are served in this transition so that they are not left behind. Now that seems like a hardy task, and of course it is, but we have you. We have states, we do have cities, and we do have entities across the federal government that can use their authorities, that can use their leverage, that can use federal procurement as a way to move this forward. And we do also have a Build Back Better program that President Biden is going to push forward, which is about building the infrastructure that we promised, an infrastructure that will allow us to get to clean energy in 2035, that will allow us to get to net zero in 2050, that will move forward with conversations we're already starting with the utilities and with the car sector about how we get at transportation issues, which are increasingly becoming one of the top opportunities we have. And I think you might have seen an announcement from General Motors, and that was an announcement made after we started some serious discussions with the car companies about how we can take advantage of electric vehicles and how the federal government can be a partner in this effort to build out the necessary infrastructure to make EVs possible, practical, and affordable. And so we have a real opportunity now, and that's what we want to build on. And so I do think that a whole of government approach is where we need to go. I'm enormously excited about the partners we're going to have in this. I mean, we're talking about Governor Granholm taking over DOE, and DOE is now focusing as much on deployment as it is on research and innovation, because the thing is that if we just take advantage of everything we already have available, we can jumpstart and bring hope again to individual communities, those that have been left behind and those that are worried about this transition. We can start using our public lands for a variety of benefits that they have always afforded to us in ways that are smarter, which is why we're talking about not extending additional leases on public lands until we have an opportunity to look more closely at what all those values are and how do we have a plan that captures each of them. This is not about permitting and fracking. This is about recognizing that we have challenges moving forward, and we're going to take a hard look at how we utilize our public lands. And so there's the whole of government approach is also, as we mentioned, transportation. And I'm extraordinarily excited that Pete Buttigieg is being actually sworn in today, which is very exciting. We've got Deb Haaland coming in at DOI, and she is well familiar with the work of DOI and the opportunities we have to work with our lands and also our tribal nations to make sure that communities are getting served and respected and engaged in all of the processes that DOI is going through. And I have Michael Regan coming in hopefully soon at transportation. So all these things are pretty exciting, as is my husband in the video behind emptying the trash. This is how life goes these days. So I think I should probably leave it there and get to some communication. But I think there are also wonderful opportunities at places like working with Masha Fudge at HUD. There are ways in which we can look together to make progress in every single area that states have been out in front on. Not just energy production and a shift to clean energy, but a shift to transportation that is lower carbon and that is moving to electric vehicles and to the potential for electric or green hydrogen for our heavier fleets. That's looking to reinvest in public transit. That's looking at delivering better air qualities in our urban areas. That's looking at opportunities for housing stock that starts out electric and that we can transform into electric moving forward. You know, I have a friend that I've been talking to who's really excited about this work. And he likes to say that we don't need to go to 100% renewable. We need to go to 200% renewable, because everything we do needs to go into the system of electrification with clean energy behind it as a way to sort of achieve the future we want to hand to our children. And I don't ever want to have to explain to my daughter why we didn't make this work. So Patrick, we're going to make this work, and let's shift to questions now. And again, thank you for all the leadership you're bringing to the table. That makes me say that Massachusetts is great every single day.
Well, thank you so much to respond to with those remarks. And I do want to turn to my colleagues across the country. One thing that I did want to ask you, as someone who followed your work as administrator, there was such a divisiveness about clean energy a decade ago. And as Kelly mentioned, we have had some success with the 2020 bill. A lot of us were surprised at the provisions
Oh, shoot, again.
Certainty for offshore wind. There was so much tremendous elements. And how do we build upon that bipartisanship? And do you see some key areas that you think that there can be some common ground established?
You know, Patrick, I do think there's real opportunity for this. And part of this is, what are we going to invest in? And so if we don't talk about this as what are we leaving versus where are we heading, I think there's every opportunity to have these discussions. If you look at it, one of the reasons why, you know, President Biden actually won the election was he ran on clean energy. You know, it wasn't like, oh, I have to talk about climate once in a while. He led with these issues because the American public knows where the future is heading. In quick conversations we've had with utilities, they're not questioning whether or not they need to go to clean energy. They're going to worry about the timing, and we're going to work through those issues, but they're ready. And the same with the car companies. Nobody questioned where we were heading. And so if we think about this as an opportunity to rebuild our manufacturing, to bring back jobs that are now being offered in China, and we grab the opportunity for better battery technology, we are going to be the winners in the world market. So this has to be about our common interests of making sure that we are building a strong economy, and that economy is one that we want to hand to our children. And I don't think there's anything bipartisan about those issues, but I do think we need to be careful about making sure that that transition is done in a way that grows opportunities for really well-paying, you know, clean energy jobs, and opportunities for unions, but also look at those communities who feel like they're going to be left in the dust. We need to provide opportunities for those communities, which is why the second executive order that we put out, the climate executive order, was really creating a task force that brought all these coal communities and energy dependent communities together so we could deliver an opportunity for those communities where they live. You know, we thought about some new jobs that might be available, you know, and because there's so many oil and old oil and gas wells that are unclosed that are spewing methane, let's get people back to work closing those, as well as coal mines. But we also have to make sure that we're thinking about them as part of the future. And that's, so it's going to be challenging, but there is not anything fundamentally to object to if it's better jobs, more jobs, and a stable economy.
It really seems as though, in some ways, I've never been more optimistic with the technological situation that we are at this time, and harnessing it for all regions is imperative. I did want to turn to our chair, Kelly Smith Burke, for a question, and did ask the rest of the states if they do have questions to please provide that in the chat function. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick, and thank you, Administrator McCarthy, for being here. We really appreciate your thoughts and taking the time to talk with us, and we're excited about the opportunity to work with you and the administration over the next 4 years to move our shared goals forward. So I have a question. In every state, we find great value in the flexibility of the funding provided through the state energy programs at USD. For instance, in Florida, we have used the SEP programs to create an electric vehicle roadmap. We've used it to create a Florida Energy and Climate Plan. We've also used it to create and then upgrade our SunSmart Schools program, which provided a 10-watt battery backup system to schools that double as emergency shelters. So with that flexibility, and in addition to the federal and state policy leadership on climate, has the administration considered the role and the utilization of state energy offices in the SEP funding mechanism to speed the delivery of renewable energy, electric vehicle infrastructure, energy efficiency, and workforce development as part of an infrastructure stimulus?
Kelly, I'm glad you mentioned workforce development, because I think that's going to be a huge issue. But first of all, thank you for chairing and for all your leadership. It's great to be here. You know, one of the good things about it, for me, having worked at the local and state level for a long time, is that I have a pretty well-defined role that I have in my head for what you do at the federal level versus what you can do with states and community level work. And so I want you to understand that one of the first things we're going to do is bring the states together and the organizations like yourself, which is to listen with open ears about where we can add value at the federal level. And to me, adding value is in two different ways. One is not to think that we're going to duplicate the efforts of the states that are better off happening at the state level. But where can we make investments of federal dollars that will be important? How do we coordinate this federal procurement idea? Because to me, the federal government owns thousands of buildings. How do we make those open season to put rooftop solar on? How do we make those the place where we go for when we build new buildings, that we take advantage of ground source heat pumps and electrification in a way that's going to be important for everybody? And so I do think what we're going to talk about together is how does the federal government both invest in the programs that have been successful so that we can show on the ground benefits. It's not good enough to be at this level of discussion and say, oh, the federal government is doing big things. We need to really show the value to every state and to every community. And I think that means we have to create a funding strategy that allows states to operate the way they have, only on a little bit of a jump start. And the second thing is we have to look at what federal permitting processes look like, and how some of them have been slow to deliver and slow to get out of the way. And so we're going to look at every opportunity for the federal government to add value and to get out of the way when we can, while still obviously protecting and doing our jobs. But there's not been significant resources expended to make sure that we're doing our jobs as quickly as we can, and that's going to be a big deal.
Thank you for that. And as I said, we are very much looking forward to having those conversations with you and to working with you all in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. First question we have from Janine Benner. What do you think will be the biggest hurdles for you and the team? And are there things that right now the states can do to try to assist you in your work as you're on, what are we, day 10, 12, who's counting?
Yeah. We've got it all planned, Patrick. I think, the biggest hurdle for me right now is I just need to get our new cabinet in place. We're working obviously with the deputies and the chief of staffs that are there, but we have to rebuild the federal agencies. One thing we learned from the sort of the advanced teams when they went in to look was that, we were really glad that we went out in front to reassert ourselves on the science side and to move forward with science integrity again, because the scientists have been decimated. And the permitting structures and the regulatory parts of the agency have been withered away. They just have been choked from resources. So we have rebuilding to do. We have great people there, but they've lacked resources to be able to do their jobs. And I don't know if you are following some of the work at DOI in particular is on the top of my mind, because we have BLM that does a lot of fundamental work on public lands. And when they shifted from Washington out west, they lost almost all of their people. It's just remarkable. And so we have to rebuild. And I think what you're going to see is us looking to do that, and also looking for other investment opportunities that aren't directed at the federal level, but are directed at where change can happen most quickly. And oftentimes that's at state and local levels.
Well, we certainly have, as an organization, been encouraged by the expertise from the states, whether it's Governor Granholm, Administrator Regan, and we were pleased to put forward letters of support for those nominations. Another question, you've really focused on the workforce training. That has been an area that state energy offices have had some expertise on, but how do you see relationship with unions developing as part of this clean energy effort? Do you see, this is a question from Kerry Campbell from Pennsylvania. He says that our state energy office has not had much of a relationship with specifically unions. What do you see as the best way to begin engagement with them, particularly on workforce?
Yeah, there's a couple of things I'd note is that, we've been communicating with unions well before the actual inauguration because we see them as being absolutely critical. Look, there is a tremendous and growing, income disparity in this country that is destabilizing. I mean, we do have to, I think, acknowledge that with eyes wide open, is there are people that just don't have access to good jobs right now. And that lack of optimism and opportunity is something we have to tackle if we expect to resolve COVID-19 and move forward with this country more unified than it's been over the past 4 years or more. And so we have to engage the unions. We cannot think that the shift to clean energy is going to mean that people who are working in the coal mines now happily take $9 an hour jobs or $10 an hour jobs putting solar on roofs. It's just not happening. And we also have to look at where those opportunities are locally, because I think, Patrick, you and others know that people, they don't want to upend their family and move if they want job opportunities where they've grown up, where many communities have been generational in these areas. So we have to think a lot more creatively about how we work through these issues. And especially in areas that are remote with no access to broadband, there's a lot of diversity across the United States in terms of opportunity. And the whole idea is to work with unions to make sure that not just retraining, but we're looking at jobs that are going to matter and get paid a fair wage. So I don't think this is beyond what other countries have been able to do, and it should not be beyond the reach of the United States to be able to pay people a good wage and have the kind of services provided that will allow them to get back to work fast.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Administrator McCarthy. We're so pleased that you took the time during your first few weeks to engage with us. We are partners and really look forward to trying to build a state-federal partnership to tackle this together. And wish you the best of luck. And thank you again for joining us.
It was great to be here. Thank you, Patrick. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Kelly. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Terrific.
Take care.
Ready. We're going to segue to our next session now. I think staff may have an announcement. I'm not sure to wrap things up, but thank you, Patrick. Great session, and we'll get teed up for our next session. You can go to your appropriate video links on next steps on zero evolving state and corp commitments to clean energy. That starts at 12:30, just in 5 minutes. Thank you.